Hello, Leaving the Theater listeners. I am here with a note about today's episode. So every now and then I see and review a movie, but due to time constraints, I've been unable to edit it together and release it when we usually do, the Monday after their weekend release. In trying to keep the show consistent, and this being a bit of a slow week in summer movie releases, there was an opportunity to reach back into the archives and give this episode some new life. So this movie came out November 19th, 2021, and I'm happy we're able to bring the review to you today after a bit of a delay. One last thing, a very special thank you to Thomas Tyra of Bias Studios for editing this one. It was a windy evening and my levels weren't great for recording this episode, so some portions may be a little difficult to hear, but Tom did the best he could to make this a listenable episode. So again, thank you, Tom. And with that, let's start the show. In 1984, Dan Aykroyd and the late, great Harold Ramis wrote a movie called Ghostbusters. It was produced and directed by Ivan Reitman. It was well received by audiences and critics alike and spawned a sequel and a cartoon series. A third film was in various stages of development since 1989, but stalled as Bill Murray refused to commit to the project. In 2016, a women-driven reboot of Ghostbusters was produced and released to mixed reviews amongst audiences and critics alike. Shortly after that, it was reported that Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman, was working on another Ghostbusters film that would be set in the same universe as the original two films. Ghostbusters Afterlife was filmed in 2019 and was set to be released in 2020, but was delayed by the pandemic, until this year when it finally made its theater debut. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. This is Ronald, and once again I am leaving the theater after seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's Ghostbusters Afterlife. Written by Gil Kenan and Jason Reitman, also directed by Jason Reitman, based on Ghostbusters, which was written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. Starring Mckenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, Carrie Coon, Paul Rudd, Logan Kim, Celeste O'Connor, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, Annie Potts, Olivia Cooper, Bokeem Woodbine, Josh Gad, Olivia Wilde, J.K. Simmons. All right, so this Ghostbusters Afterlife was a movie that has been in the works for a very long time. People have been talking about making a Ghostbusters 3 for quite some time. And at the top, I believe I mentioned that Bill Murray was refusing to be in it. Then Harold Ramis dies, things go wrong, and then we get, I believe it was the 2016 version of, actually I can tell you, yeah, it's a 2016 women-driven reboot of Ghostbusters, which I liked. A lot of people did not like that movie. I like that movie. And actually, it's not a lot of people didn't like that movie. Loud people didn't like that movie. And I kind of think it hurt that movie in a way that didn't necessarily have to happen. I think it was a lot of misogyny-based opinions that people were saying about the movies. But other than that, I liked it. I thought it was funny. It had Melissa McCarthy. It had Kirsten Stewart. It had Kate McKinnon. It had Leslie. I am forgetting her last name. Y'all know who I'm talking. Leslie Jones. So, I liked it. This, on the other hand, is a direct continuation of the first two Ghostbusters movies. And obviously, there's a bit of nepotism going on in that you have Jason Reitman, who wrote the script and is now directing it. His father, Ivan Reitman, owns a production company, produced the first Ghostbusters movie, and is now producing this one as well. When this movie opens, I am struck by how 90s it is. And when I say that, I mean like everything from the scoring to the pacing to the small town mystery, people leaving New York to come to this small town, and all these mysterious happenings are going on, and they're finding all the things. You've seen a lot of things in the parts in the trailers. If you're interested in the Ghostbusters universe at all, if you watched the trailer, you kind of get the fact that this family moves into this house and they start uncovering all these things that are in the house. You see the ectomobile, you see the traps, the ghost detectors, all that stuff. They start running into that stuff inside the house. What I like about this is, like, as a person who loves 90s movies, and 90s movies are kind of where I like cut my teeth on like how to watch a movie, understanding pacing, understanding story. This movie feels familiar in that regard. I mean, it's very much I thought of Radio Flyer, I thought of The Burbs, I thought of Beetlejuice. There's just a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, just a bunch of movies that all have that same feel. Like, you know, the score, that's the big band, and you got the flutes and the piccolos playing and all that stuff. And a lot of that to indicate that there's a mystery afoot. We're out here finding the mystery. And what I like about this one, and I was walking in this prepared to mark it down, be like, look at you guys, you know, throwing it back to the men, like you guys did it again. You couldn't let the women have one. But this movie takes Mckenna Grace. She is the star of this movie. She plays a 12-year-old named Phoebe. She is related to someone that you may know. I don't even know if that's a spoiler. I think it's not a very well-kept secret, but I won't spoil it for those of you that plan to go watch this movie. However, watching it and watching her, she takes good command of the screen, so much so that while I'm watching her, I realize that I don't really care about anything else that's going on if she's not on the screen. So, you know, we're following her, and then they follow her brother, Finn Wolfhard, from Stranger Things, who is actually playing the role of the older teenage boy from Stranger Things. Either one of them, honestly, Steve or the other one. I don't actually know either of their names, but he's playing that role in this movie. And I mean, he's gangly and old now. I mean, the boy is 18 now. He probably shot this when he was like 16, so he's like true teenager. Like, I mean, and watching him, and when they're like showing the parts where he's involved, when they're showing those parts, I'm less interested in the movie. When they're showing parts of the mom, I'm less interested in the movie. But Mckenna is driving the plot forward. Again, Phoebe, Mckenna Grace, Phoebe is driving the plot forward, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, watching her like unravel the mystery. She's there with a guy. The character name is Podcast, and his name. He is played by Logan Kim, which I mean, them together was very entertaining. Obviously, Logan Kim was supposed to be a guy who actually has a podcast, which was extremely, extremely, extremely entertaining to watch, because he walks up on, when we're first introduced to him, he's actually recording a podcast, which I get it. I understand the irony as I'm standing on the street recording a podcast right now. But it was very nice watching the way they kind of integrate this new young team of Ghostbusters together. It's good. Like, I actually enjoyed most of this movie. When it gets to the end, it starts to feel a lot like the very first Ghostbusters. Like, they just kind of regurgitated a lot of that plot, and I felt like they did a lot of work to get there, and then kind of just was like, all right, and we're just going to put it on autopilot now, which makes sense because Jason Reitman did it. This is a man who has grown up with Ghostbusters in his life. So I don't think it's going to be hard for him to say, hey, we're just going to, you know, use a lot of the same elements, make the film, make one for the fans, you know? And I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fueled by some of the parts of the women-led Ghostbusters criticism, like coming along and making the movie like this. When I'm talking about this, I'm talking specifically about the third act. Now, I will say there was a scene in the third act that made me tear up. I mean, like, I teared up hard. I was like, oh, no, I think I might actually cry. And it wasn't the cameo that you guys are all expecting by the time we get to this part of the movie. That cameo I thought was a bit contrived, and I'm going to say this without spoiling it. There's a couple of people that show up, and they show up seemingly right on time, and when I watched this, I thought it kind of hamstrung the movie because I'm like, oh, so these guys just get to sweep in and save the day after this girl and all her friends did all the work. The entire movie, they had their own plan, and now it doesn't work. And these three old people, and I'm not being ageist here, but I meant like these grown men come in and, okay, I don't want to spoil it, but you guys probably kind of get where I'm going. And again, it's a cameo that's like baked in. You already see the actors. You can see the cast of this movie. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just saying when it happens, I'm like, if you're going to do this, do a better job of it. But I thought they nailed the landing closer than I thought. There's a mid-credit scenes and there's an after-the-credit scene that I think don't do much to advance the plot, but at least set it up to say, hey, if we want to do more of these, we could certainly do more of these movies. With all of that being said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. It got me out of the cold. I enjoyed watching it on the big screen, although I don't think it needs to be on the big screen. Again, could have been a series. Again, could have just been on television. Again, could have released it on HBO Max. Train going by, easily could have released it on HBO Max. Would have been fine. Granted, it's not one of their properties, but still, just it could have been on the small screen. For those of you that want to see this movie, I mean, if you like going to the theater, go to the theater. Go check this out. If you don't, if you're still skittish, if you don't have the vaccine, whatever, stay at home. Like, wait for this one to come. Wait, buy it for $20. Like, it's not. This is good. If you got kids and a family, they're gonna enjoy this. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of little cutesy scenes. I think the kids are very enjoyable to watch. And if you're a '90s kid, you're gonna sit back and be like, oh yeah, okay, I remember watching these movies, and you're gonna feel good about watching that by yourself, with your partner, with your family, whatever. You're gonna have a good time. I give it 3.5 of 5 stars. 3.5 of 5 stars. 3.25 of 5 stars. I liked it. I liked it a lot. 3.25 of 5 stars. That's right. You guys saw that happen live right now. I just adjusted it right now. 3.25 of 5 stars. I'll watch another one if they make another one. I don't know if I'd take the trip to the theater, but I'd watch another one. Yeah.
And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios. The show is mixed by Thomas Tyra of Bias Studios. Thank you, Tom. Show art from Katie Helm. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. To find out more information about Ghostbusters Afterlife, check our show notes for details. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studios shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios or on Twitter at OhitsBigRonStew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.